I particularly see a lot of assimilation in Song of Solomon through Macon. This whole idea of the aspirational great man or the great white man that Macon is so determined to be, some ways instilling it in his own son, is to me all about assimilation. He wants the great American dream. He wants to make it from the bottom and be a great success. See, the nationalistic side is more guitar, but I definitely see Macon as the ultimate of assimilation.
You see nationalism in guitar, and he is such an interesting character to me because his association with the 7 days, his mindset towards it is very, at least he thinks that he's being empowered. He thinks that in doing this, he's doing something for his people. He thinks that what he is doing is justice for the African American community. And it's kind of a misconception of nationalism because in turn, he's not doing that at all. He's murdering people. He's murdering innocent people. And so, I mean, in his character, I personally think that he just went a little crazy. Him and all the 7 days, they were so hurt. It comes from a place of hurt. I'll give them that, especially considering that, you know, the way his father died, he was chopped up and given $40 as some sort of reparation. So I understand his anger towards the people that the 7 days are after, but you can see nationalism being problematized when people take it and twist it and interpret it as, I'm going to fight fire with fire. If you do this to me, I do that to you. And at the end of the day, it's just more lives lost.
Well, definitely nationalism with the 7 days. And in regards to assimilation, I think one of the more low-key characters, if you will, 1 Corinthians really demonstrated assimilation. A college education was something that should have been celebrated. But because of her status as not only a woman, but as a black woman, that people still degraded her with her education. So she assimilated into that role, assimilated into the stereotype of what a black woman should be. And she neglected to really capitalize on her education and instead just was complacent in her place in society.
I viewed the flight in Song of Solomon a little less traditionally than flying. So I noticed that a lot of the characters in there went on physical journeys. So they were flying in the sense that they weren't sedentary. They were moving from place to place. So, and especially people who were searching for who they were. Two characters, for example, is Pilate. We see that in her separation from her brother, she just keeps moving from house to house. And in doing so, she ends up finding herself. And we see that happen to Milkman too. He leaves his home, the idea of leaving, flight as leaving. He leaves his home to go find his natural, not his natural roots, but his ancestral roots of where he came from. And you even see it in his dad, Macon. He originally, when he was with his sister, Pilate, they were both flying or traveling together, but then when he became sedentary, he started to, instead of finding himself, I feel he started to just conform to what he was expected to be. So I think that flight essentially represents moving and discovering yourself.
When I think of flight, I think of lift. So it's all about a sense of transcendence, evolving into the next level that you're supposed to go into. And I think Milkman is probably the ultimate display of that. He began sort of infantile by both his parents, really. You know, his mother wanted to keep him as young as possible, and his father wanted to control him in every way possible, and by doing so, kept him very juvenile. And it wasn't until he went out in search of his own history and his own family story, by a sense of movement, evolution, and flight, do we see that in some ways he became the great man that his father hoped him to be.